Good evening, and welcome to the first episode of American Revolution 2.0, a weekly look at news, possibly entertainers, and also my weekly look at performance of the president and everything else in between. I'll also be closing off the show with a segment I like to call In My View, my own personal look at the news, entertainers, or anything that's on my mind I like to talk about. So, let's get this started, and let's ignite the revolution. This week has been an awesome week in news. This week we were reflecting the 50th anniversary of March of Washington, Jobs and Freedom, Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and its impact 50 years later, and President Obama's historic speech making on the same day, on the same steps that Martin Luther King made his speech. And also, this week has been marred by tragedy. According to some estimates, some reports by United States Intel, more than 1,000 people have been gassed or chemically poisoned by Syrian government troops, which, of course, they have always denied. On Sunday, when Bobby Jindal was asked by David Gregory on Meet the Press, he was asked about Obamacare. He was voting for defunding it. Well, have we been there before already, Mr. Jindal? Instead of defunding Obamacare, why don't you compromise it? Why don't you make it work for you, for your conservative friends, and mostly for the citizens of Louisiana or whatever state that might allow the state health exchanges, such as Michigan. But of course, Republicans, they don't want compromise. They just want to look out for themselves and not look out for the average citizen. Also this week, the British Parliament was debating on whether or not to go to war or do military intervention in Syria. That was debated for about quite some time. As of 2 days ago, Britain decided not to do so because of one thing: the ghost of the Spectre in Iraq. So the debate was, should the United States go solo? Should they wait for the report of the UN weapons inspectors, which according to some could take up to 3 weeks, and we really don't know what happened or what not happened. As you know, with our intel, it was faulty at best when we went to 2003 in the invasion of Iraq, and those intelligence was based on faulty lies. But that's for the history. That's for history books to decide and for people to decide. So, on the anniversary of the 50th anniversary of the March of Washington for Jobs and Freedom, they reflected on what was accomplished, what wasn't accomplished, and how far we have went, how far have we come as a country to achieve King's vision of a racially just country. Well, sad to say, a key component of the 1964 Voting Rights Act, where most of the southern states have been known to discriminate minorities based upon color, had won their victory, and now most states are now requiring voting ID. But there's something people do not know. In the Constitution, voting is our natural right. You don't need a voting ID to go register to vote. The reason why they put this voting ID into effect is to hinder any person's right to vote, whether if they're white, black, gay, straight, Catholic, or atheist. In general, every single person, regardless of what I mentioned, has a right to vote. Has, shall we say, a God-given right, a constitutional right, even a natural right to express their say in this great democratic republic of ours. Also, I was very moved on watching President Obama's speech on those very same steps as Martin Luther King had spoke. He reflected on those who came before and what lies ahead. I do agree what lies ahead for this nation. We need a new Voting Rights Act to protect those of color, sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity. And like I said before, we all have a right to vote. Just today, the president has said he wants to do military intervention with Syria, but there's a catch. He wants congressional authorization to strike. Well, as we know, Congress will be sold to act since they're on labor recess and will be back next week on the 9th. So hopefully, key members of the Senate and the House are supposedly by now informed, and hopefully they will come to an agreement and strike Syria. Now, I close out my show with my view. As I said before, Bobby Jindal was for defending Obamacare. We've been there before once. Let's not go there again. It's time to move this country forward. They have to deal with the fact that Obamacare is the law of the land. If they don't like it, don't complain about it. Don't bitch about it. As my mother used to tell me, deal with it or leave. Now, also on Sunday, we were somewhat shocked, somewhat disgusted by Miley Cyrus's performance with Robin Thicke's song Blurred Line, the way she moved, the way she gyrated her hips as defined by the new word because of her called twerking. Well, we all know who Miley Cyrus is. She's the daughter of famed country singer Billy Ray, and she was also of Hannah fame from Disney. Well, we all know what happens to Disney stars. They grow up to be wholesome images, wholesome. They waste away into nothing. Case in example, Lindsay Lohan, but she's turned around and I'm very glad for her. But, makes you wonder, what was she thinking? What was she doing in terms of these dance movements and everything else? People have to understand, these stage performances are performed, they're staged or choreographed days in advance before a show or a concert. So it makes me wonder, was Miley doing this for talk? Perhaps. Or is she doing this to show she's an adult? Well, to me she's still a child. When I was 20, did you see me doing that? Hell no. I was waiting for 21 to drink. But, besides the point, I saw the performance myself and I was disgusted. That's no way to say, hey, I was a former Disney child star, and now I'm an adult, look at me. I don't think she had much of attention as a child. Moving on. I also want to say, again, I was moved by the president's speech and where we have to go and how far we have to get there in order to be socially just and also economically and racially just in this country. And I would like to applaud the president's decision on waiting for Congress authorization to strike in Syria. Don't panic. It's not a war. It's just a preemptive strike. In order for the president to declare war, another country would have to declare war on us. In this case, we haven't. Well, I'll read the words, please. Some say yes, some say no. I'm sort of in between because of what's going on in Syria. I would like to say yes. We're not the world's police. We have to keep our nose out of people's business. So, that's my first episode. Hopefully you liked it. I know I did. I'll see you same time next week with another weekly look at the news, headliners, and headlines. Have a good night, and ignite the revolution.